it is that way because I want to speak to you for just a moment to express what we're working on and a little bit about our perspective on it. We are Team Elderly. We were formed to examine the isolation of an elderly person during the pandemic. It seems like a distant shore, the one that we started with, because we've traveled a fair distance. We landed in our insight work on several personas, which led the way to two powerful insights. Two powerful how might be questions that we began working with, and I'll share those with you now. How might we create compassionate technology for isolated elderly humans? And how might we help the elderly accept their lives and take their last breath in peace? These are actually somewhat related to each other, but we've worked on them separately. And what we're going to show you now is two ideas that relate to the elderly taking their last breath in peace, and then several other ideas about compassionate technology, and we will end with a proposal for how we think this might be achieved. So to begin, I'm going to set this up with some work around compassion. My predominant feeling is one of gratitude. I've loved and been loved. I've been given much, and I've given something in return. Oliver Sacks. The truth is that all genuine appreciation rests on a certain mystery of humility and almost darkness. And this leads us to the insights that drove our work around this one, how might we question? Our first insight is that gratitude benefits the sender and the receiver. It improves our well-being and our health. Living into gratitude isn't hard, but it can be awkward at first. It takes a little courage. The impact of gratitude is instantaneous, and we find peacefulness and contentment in the presence of gratitude. This isn't just our human-centered inquiry at work. There's also science behind this. And while we won't look at these two videos right now, I encourage you to do so later on. The science of gratitude shows physiologically that gratitude alters our neural pathways, lowers our stress levels, raises our markers of happiness, and gives us a sense of contentment. The experiment in gratitude on the right is a wonderful example of how this works with humans. And just a few more thoughts. There are many different ways that we have thought about to bring this discourse to elderly people. But of course, elderly people are parts of families, they're parts of communities, they're parts of cultures. And gratitude is a two-way activity. And so there's many different ways that this can be accomplished. Some of them are technological, some of them are quite analog. And some of them are yet to be discovered, and you'll see some of that as we go forward.
Good. So yeah, starting with the idea of gratitude, look back to look forward, that's actually similar to a strategy that they use for future thinking. So how you can look back at your life and see all the changes that have already happened and then apply that to envision the future. So basically the idea here will be a physical or digital notebook that will help you identify two main areas. So one would be the fun era, so that's travel into the past, and the other one is an introspection about your present and your future, such as I can still make a change and add new experiences into my life. So you will first travel into the past and collect gratitude stories from friends, colleagues, or family. So that would be one part of the notebook, and on the other one you will complete the journal every day to recall your insights, and you will reflect on it and find next actions. So who is that for? This is for Amelia. So she complains about the past, about mistakes, and she feels it's too late to change and to have a role in life and enjoy the present. So elderly people used to regret on many aspects of their life, and it's a common theme to listen how our grandparents will have done many things on a different way. So the pains that this will solve, the first pain is I have many regrets, and the reliever will be, well, you did things in the past that brought you where you are today. So this is a way to understand that your actions in the past serve as a learning experience, and the notebook will have an area in which close people can reflect on how Amelia changed their life. And an example from a former student will be, she was my teacher at school. I will always remember when she taught me to be generous with my colleagues, and I have lived up to that value the rest of my life. John. So that would be a quote she will have in that part of the diary. And we were also thinking that once you buy the gratitude diary online, you can personalize it so that you can upload all those sentences and they will be printed directly when you receive the diary. And the other part will be building agency towards the future. Life is not over. So Amelia will reflect every day on the things she's grateful for. So basically when she wakes up, she would write 3 things she's grateful for. She would write her role for the day, which can be cooking for my family or taking care of gardening, so many things. And she will feel empowered as well. And then at night, she will reflect on one learning from that day, and she will write 3 highlights of the day, which will help her envision as well that she's living a life that can still build upon, and change can still happen. So the impact is, of course, empowerment and and envisioning a new future. And a similar idea into that would be this giving back. So we thought about sessions for young people taught by the elderly. So Jack will be able to teach a class of teenagers and college graduates the decisions he made in life and encourage them to not make the same mistakes. So we come back again to the regret aspect and how you can find that regret can be a learning, and how you can how your mistakes can help others. So this will give Jack a role instead of feeling powerless. We haven't thought about the format of that. It can be online as a webinar, or it can be physical as well. So yeah, he will have Jack has experience in life, and he will be used to teach that experience to others. And an example of that will be focus. So it's I think a common theme how younger generations were not focused, so we're on many things at the same time, we're using so many devices as well at the same time, and how the elderly feel a bit frustrated sometimes, and they will be like, leave your phone, we're having a conversation here, or we're eating here, leave your phone away. So from one side, the elderly will feel that they're not adding more value, and they're shocked by the lack of focus, and from the other side, younger generations are suffering from this loss of focus as well. So Jack will feel useful as he will be able to teach and help others learn. So while others have experience in different subjects, Jack knows how to enjoy the present moment and how to focus on one thing at a time. And that's something he can, of course, bring to younger generations. Knows how to enjoy the present moment and how to focus on one thing at a time. And that's something he can, of course, bring to younger generations. And now we're gonna move on into compassionate technology for isolated elderly humans.
I guess that's me, my cue. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool, thank you. So this is the second How Might We worked on. It gets a little bit more tactical as to how to deliver the feelings that we've been talking about, considering that potentially the way we might interact more in the future is more digital. I mean, certainly hope not, but there is a high possibility of that, and that is what has kind of driven us into this particular position to have this conversation in the first place. So given that, how might we create compassionate technology for isolated elderly humans? Anna, can you go to the next slide? Thank you. So this is a first idea called the red button. The red button, if you want to go to the next slide, I can come back here, sorry. The next one, sorry. All right, so this is a storyboard that was done in about 10 minutes this morning when I had not had enough coffee, so it's not the best. But it creates an idea of an older person trying to debug. I mean, he's using let's say Skype for this instant, and it throws up something saying like, bad things are happening, you do this, and he's like, I have no idea what to do. This is crazy. So he calls his son, who is in a far-off land, and he says, I have no way of, I was like, I have no idea what to do. And he says, Dad, don't worry, I'll red button it right away. And so what is red button? So he's basically he's recording something in a language that his dad will understand. He's basically saying, you see that thing on top that looks like a pineapple, click that first. And then pull that thing down, which looks like an onion, kind of in ways, mixing languages, mixing words, mixing concepts, in free-flowing idea of how to get the point across to his dad. And record it and send it, and red button does the rest. And on the other end, his dad receives it, and it automatically gets integrated into the application that he's sending. So he is not doing anything. He's just basically saying, by the way, this by virtue of magic, we'll get there. Paulo will help us. So it'll basically get into the Skype itself, so that when he opens it, it says like, oh, this is how you do it. So so it is an automated, customized help and other operational instructions that is told in words and actions from somebody whom you trust, somebody whom you love. So can you go back to the previous slide, Anna? Thank you. So that's red button. It's a feature that we can actually, we can add to an existing application, or it could be a completely separate application, or better yet, as Paulo will touch on later, as an operating system feature that basically says, here you go. And this is a open, it has to be part of every operating system, like a Mac OS would come with it, so that you will kind of be able to send something and connect it through multiple applications from different resources. So what is this? Why is this relevant? I think anxiety and helplessness will certainly increase when you're in isolation. You're already at an advanced age. You're already wondering about, as we talked about, what is, how much time do I have left? In that time, what am I going to achieve? How will I want to see my family, I want to see my parents, I want to see my kids, I want to see my grandkids. And suddenly you're restricted to doing all of that with an application that completely confounds you. It throws gibberish at you, and it says you need to, reinstall the operating system and remove your older versions. What does that mean? So how do we make that simple in a way that this person can actually understand it and move forward with it? So we've put in ideas of what is needed to actually develop this into a future idea. And we openly welcome people who will jump into this and take it to the next level. With that, I hand over to my friend Johan, who will talk about other idea snippets.
All right, thank you. And thank you so much for that. And Clark, how inspiring was that? It's hard to pick up after that, after all your professional guests. But anyway, right, growing old, it has its advantages. You get grandchildren, you get wisdom, you eventually learn more about empathy and things like that. So and the alternative, of course, sucks. So being elderly is not something we should be afraid of. However, we need to make sure that things should be easier to handle, not harder to handle as you grow older. So we thought a lot about this, and something that sort of popped up and crystallized during the last night was what we call compassionate interface. And compassionate interface is all about making the making the devices adapt to you instead of you having to jump the loops in order to get things running. And we envision that this will come in it's like an onion. There will be multiple layers, and the easiest perhaps is the physical layer. And we have manifested this as a idea that we call gentle case, which is the world's first tablet case that is really designed to make life easier for someone who is elderly, because growing old also comes with a sort of a functional decline. We lose eyesight, we lose hearing, the motoric skills, the skin dries up, things like that, makes it harder to handle. And actually, a tragic thing here is that I checked what is the best tablet for an elderly. And the best tablet for an elderly is apparently the iPad 9.7. And I totally do not agree. It looks like every other iPad, you know. It's slippery, it's fragile, it's a very small room to keep it, and so it's just totally, all tablets are not designed for the elderly. So we are envisioning here sort of a greater, as a larger case. It's easy to hold on. There are large buttons for putting on and off, for adjusting the volume and the screen brightness, but also buttons for calling your daughter with a video. Not having to mess around with selecting the right app and clicking on the correct icon. You just push a big, nice button and it connects you to your daughter using whatever video app it has been selected by your daughter's husband or whoever is tech savvy. So this one, I think, it's very easy to comprehend. It's easy to create as well. And looking at the next page, Anna, if you're so kind. Yes, the next stage, sort of, or the next layer in the onion would be also to put the gentle interface or the compassionate interface into the apps. Everybody hates Skype updates. I too do. I think it's very unnecessary, and it just confuses me. And the things I used to click are not there anymore, and it's just confusing. And for my father-in-law, it's even worse. And he can't really understand why they need to complicate things. So, and this is part of what Vinod was talking about also, that the software companies need to ship free more skins or APIs for that can be used by elderlies. And these skins are sort of 1, 2, 3, and lesser in complexity, lesser in features. They keep stable, and you can use this basically like the MP3 skins that we used before on our Windows machines when we wanted to have music players. To make the interface less dynamic, you know, we need, because when we get older, we get cognitive decline. It's easy to remember things that we learned a long time ago, but we don't want to adapt to new things, and we shouldn't have to. So putting these skins into the system will actually make lives much easier. All right, next next slide, please. And this is the last slide, I think, of the compassionate interface part, and this is where we really put things together. I'm really speeding here now because the time is short. Theodore, everybody who has yelled at their Siri or Alexa or Google Home and tried to make them understand what to do knows what this is about. We don't want to do that. We want the system to understand us, and we want to deploy more a richer way of communicating with these systems, where also my temper, where my eyes movement, where my physical body language is taken into account by the system. As this happens, when the system reads a whole mort of me when I try to communicate, that information also can be used to understand when I have a risk of perhaps a stroke, or there is Alzheimer's signs showing up in my eye movement. There are things showing in my choice of words, things like that. that can then be used. So the interface is used is fuller. It makes it easier for you to communicate with the devices that you and make them understand what you want to do. But on the same time, that information can be used to make heads up early warnings about your cognitive state and or things like that that might be a risk. And when we get early warnings of these things, it's easier to prevent, and the treatment is much more effective, and it means more happy years at home. So, Anna, please. And the last one, which I will not go into detail about, is a is a really fun a fun thing that sort of jumped into us when we were working, and that was about all the so the tragic need here, of course, is for the people with dementia, and there are a lot of them. I think 46 million globally today. They're expected to be more. We are expected to be more, and this is a rising problem. And asking these people, if you have a cognitive decline or if you're suffering from dementia, it's really hard to remember to wash your hands and then to do it appropriately. We need to be able to learn and to help and to support our dear and nears with suffering from dementia to pursue and to do the acts like this, like brushing teeth and washing hands better. And the idea was here to use videos recorded by actors brushing teeth and washing hands correctly, and then superimposing them using deep fake video with the faces of the demented person, and then show these videos to them and make it easy for them to perform these tasks. So that's a deep fake put into service of mankind. Thanks so much.
Yep, and now I'll just try to wrap it up as quickly as I can. Essentially, what we're talking about here is modularity, making sure that technology adapts to us and that it's easy to use for people. So this can be either be implemented by creating an operating system, like Vinod mentioned, or applications that have some type of connectivity with family members, so that the non-tech savvy people don't have to worry about the technical side of the solutions, but just have access to the applications that they need in an easy way, while the people that are tech savvy can take care of the limitations or the barriers that stop them from using the technology. So it's really about maybe a design, paradigm in order to enable modularity and make sure that the technology adapts to us and that it serves their needs in a way that we can create our own ecosystems in the way that we want to use them.